Hello and welcome to Exotic Gardening UK Yorkshire Kris Weekly. And on this week's episode, we're just going to have a look around the garden at plants that are looking good at this time of year. So this very tall tree fern was planted, I think it was 3 years ago now, and when I did it, I planted it with about 30 centimetres under the ground of the stump and the rest above ground, and I put this big stake here and secured it with another lower stake down there as well, and put some wire around it, and now it's had some time to secure itself into the ground. It's rooted out into the soil. Still a little bit wobbly, but it's firm enough at the base. It's time to remove the supports, so I'm just going to take off these wires, and these wires have got some sort of like rubber around them so they don't dig into plants, which is really good. And while I do this, I can smell the amazing fragrance of the bromantias which are either side of me. They smell absolutely gorgeous. Let's get rid of that snake. So, there we go. That's that gone. A bit rotten at the bottom, that actually. And we'll remove this other stake as well. And this now will support itself. So it's still a little bit wobbly because it's obviously very tall. But if I press it at the base, it's really firm. So that's the tree fern unleashed. Now here, in part of the garden, I've not weeded it at all, so you can see quite a lot of weeds here. We have some interesting exotic plants that I don't really mention very often. And these include a very hardy ginger and a very hardy begonia. So first of all, if you look at the begonia, you can see it's spread here with these wonderful red underneath the leaves, which spread all over this area. You can see it's all over there, and it's spreading out underneath the palm tree over there. And like I said, these leaves are quite small. They do get a bit bigger than this, but it's a wonderful red underneath, and the white or the pink flowers that come later in summer that are of interest. And when I say it's hardy, I mean it's really hardy, so this doesn't need any protection whatsoever. And this is Begonia evanescens, and it just gets on with it basically. It gets watered by this little sprinkler, and it likes the shade, dappled shade here, and it just grows, slowly multiplies and covers this area. Very easy to propagate, just dig a little bit up and it will happily grow. And in between here we have got Canna here, so we've got some Cannas coming up as well, and some more in this area. Very slow this year, but they'll catch up, and they were left out all winter as well. And then we've got this ginger, and this is not an hedychium. This is a wonderful sort of woodland ginger that just has these really nice soft leaves, and it doesn't get too big, up to about 80 centimetres tall, something like that, and covers this area. Nice woodland ginger. Again, gets watered well, and it has wonderful orange flowers later on in the season. So that's just a couple of nice little easygoing plants you can plant and forget about. Give that exotic appearance. Yes, they don't start doing much until June, but once they start coming up, they cover the area nice and well, and they look fantastic all the way through to the first frosts. And over here, I don't often show my garden this time of year, so it's just basically been planted out with some bedding. So we've got some Solenstormum, and we've also got some Plectranthus there as well, and a Irisine over there, more Cannas. This Canna Little quiz for you now. What canna is this? What do you think this dark burgundy canna is? I bet you won't guess what it is. Put your comments below and I'll give the answer later on. So here we have a pretty incredible geranium. This is not your common garden cottage geranium. This is an exotic geranium from the islands of Madeira and from the Mediterranean islands as well. This is geranium, thought it was geranium madeirense from Madeira, but I believe this is actually Geranium palmatum or a hybrid between the two. It's got these huge whorls of pinkish purplish flowers, absolutely covered this area, and this was a tiny plant 3 years ago. Didn't do much for the first year, and then last year it flowered its socks off and then died back a little bit, and then it's come back with a vengeance this year as well, and it's absolutely covered in thousands and thousands of flowers. It just self-seeds, there's a few seedlings popping up here and there around it, and the bees absolutely love it. It's proved to be hardy enough here, so this was not protected whatsoever, and it just got on with winter. It started growing again in sort of early spring, and now we're on the longest day of the year almost, middle of June, and it's flowering its socks off. So it's a wonderful plant. Gets bigger than you think. Like I said, this is over, well, it's 2 meters across now, this, and it's about a meter and a half tall, so it's a big old geranium. And yes, it's a bit cottagey, but it's also very exotic, fantastic for the wildlife, for the bees, and it looks stunning on this corner of the garden. Now I want to take a moment to talk to you about latent winter damage. And I know we're into middle of summer now, and you're thinking, why am I talking about winter damage? Surely that's well in the past. Well, it is in most cases, but some things take a long time to show up. And in this case, behind me, I've got the Trachycarpus oreophilus palm, and after winter it looked completely fine. All the leaves are still very green, which is a bit unexpected because it's not the hardest of palms, this one. But now, a few months later, and the outer leaves are dying off quicker than they would normally after a mild winter. So we've got all these brown patches on these leaves, and quite a lot of the leaves. The centre's totally fine. It's not spear pulled. We've got lots of green leaves in the middle. And overall it's a healthy plant, but we've just got those tatty outer leaves that make it look a bit, you know, less than pristine. And after a mild winter, this wouldn't occur. So sometimes you can think a plant is totally fine after winter, but it just takes a few months for that damage to occur, and the weather warms up and the damage just shows a bit later on. But I think overall this palm's still looking pretty good, and it'll continue to grow well this year. So one job I'm doing this weekend is sorting out my paths. So I've got loads more wood chip, nice and fresh, and I'm just replenishing it all over my paths. I've got quite a lot to do, but I've done 4 cubic meters of the wood chip, and it just gives it a nice finish. And this will last for about 2 to 5 years before it really is broken down, and I'll need to top it up again. This is soft wood playback chippings, nice standard size, nice and clean, nice and soft underfoot, easy to spread, easy to move, and with that sort of woodland feel, I think it really goes really well with the plants either side of it around these beds. Now we're well into the main sort of Phyllostacis and other types of bamboo shooting period, and this one here is Shanghai 3, and this shoot, which is, well, must be 3 meters tall now, this has been produced in just over a week, so it's absolutely gone crazy. It's grown so fast. There's a few other shoots here, and this is meant to be one of the big cold hardy timber bamboos, but in my location it's been planted now what 6-7 years, and it doesn't have thick culms at all yet. So whether it needs a longer growing season, more water, more feed, or just a better climate, I'm not sure, but it's not doing those big culms that are that thick that it was promised to do. But I have got some other timber bamboos that are looking good. So just down here, Phyllostacis bamboo, and you can see those deep purpley black almost shoots that are coming up around the plant, and you can see a palm tree in the middle there as well, with a cord line in the background, and all around here you can see the new shoots emerging, come at a bit of an angle, and then they start heading upwards into the sky. And this is where I had my big Trachycarpus gigantea bamboo, which died after flowering. You can see loads of seedlings along with the weeds all over this area, tons of seedlings. But it's the Phyllostacis that is shooting now, producing huge culms, and within a couple of weeks they'll be at full height, and then they'll leaf out over the summer. In front of us here we have a magnificent small, believe it or not, Eucalyptus, and this is Eucalyptus dubovillii, and it's got incredible white bark, which I've shown you in the past, which goes like a tawny brown colour after many years. And it's got these amazing evergreen leaves that always looks good all year round, and at this time of year it's actually in full flower. And if we just carefully zoom in, hopefully you can see it's absolutely covered in white pom-poms all over, thousands of small white flowers that look like a bit like underwater sea anemones up close. And then after this obviously it'll form seed. But it's absolutely covered at the moment. Almost, when I looked out the bedroom window this morning, it looked like it was covered in snow. And obviously it's just the flowers, and it's just one of those things at this time of year, when it's in full bloom, it looks pretty much at its best. But it's such a great tree, because it looks great all year round, puts up with all the cold and wet weather we get in winter, the sun in summer, and all the winds, and it always looks good. Here's a quick update on the Colocasia pink chinas that were left out all winter, as they always are. Now into full leaf, not the big leaves yet, because it's still early on and they're several weeks behind. But as you can see, they've made decent plants now, they've caught up a bit. Really dark pink, almost reddish stems, and nice sort of light green leaves that will get a bit darker. And once they've got the chicken pellets on them as well, they'll get much bigger. And the nice warm nights will mean these leaves will just get bigger and bigger throughout the season, and I'll do an update of these later on when they're at the full size. Thank you for watching Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Join me next week, we'll be doing more in the garden.